I'm always ready, baby.
Morning.
Look here. First of all, I want to welcome all y'all broke entrepreneurs to the Players Club. It's packed. Niggas don't know how to act. We the max.
Alrighty, good morning, folks. It's Shawn Mahdavi here with realbees.com, and I've got a special guest today, Al Stasek. Al is a owner, Are you a broker?
No.
Okay, no, you're an owner of Remax office in Northern Ohio, the Cleveland area, and it's called Stasek Real Estate Group. Al is one of the top 3 real estate agents in Northern Ohio. In 2011 he was a Remax Hall of Famer, which means you have, and even in order to qualify that, you have to do $1 million in business. In 2011 he also won the Remax Chairman's Award, which is, I'll let him explain. I think it's like $500,000 in, what is that award?
It's $500,000 in one day.
And he's #1 in his company. This month he's going to end up at least to $4 million in volume. And the Al Stasek team will do 180 transactions this year. What's up, Al?
Hey, Shawn. Thanks for having me on.
Man, we're gonna have fun today because we did an interview a few months ago, and I don't ever think I even got it up, but I wanted to do it face to face on Skype, and I like this, being able to do the interviews and see your face because you're such a good looking guy.
Well, I'll be even better looking after you get me that bottle of cream.
All right, we want to talk about that right now. All right, so what I want to do is I want to set the tone here because there's a lot of agents that are watching this video today and this interview today, and we're going to talk about planning. We're going to talk about having a business plan because one of the things that I love about you is that you are relentless. When you get content, when you get trainings, is you gobble them up as quickly as possible. You weed out all the crap and you put in the stuff that really works and you implement in your business very quickly. And in order to do that, it takes a good plan. So kind of set the stage from in your career up to this point and kind of give us a condensed version of how you got into real estate and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, I guess back in '97, I figured out in '97 that over-the-road truck driving wasn't for me, so I took a summer off to drive my motorcycle to the beach and try and convince my future wife. I didn't know she was my future wife at the time, to go out with me. And we ended up hitting it off. I stopped driving truck and started landscaping, and I really had no direction. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and my dad was a realtor for years, and he loved it and had fun with it. And I swore I'd never be a real estate agent, but for whatever reason, one day I think I was at probably at least $800,000 house in my marketplace. That's a high-end home, and it was a doctor's. It's one of our clients we landscape for, and I was just sitting there I was in one of his flower beds, and I was picking weeds and putting them in buckets. And all of a sudden I look up and I seen one of his kids just looking out the window at me, and I was like, man, that sucks. So the next day I was in real estate classes, and the rest is history, I guess.
And ironically, I know the story a little bit more in depth than some of the viewers do today, but ironically, what you saw your dad dealing with in real estate as a young kid, with the rejection and some of the things like that, and you're like, this is never for me. It's sort of like a poetic justice that you're an agent now. So let's come full circle to today, and let's talk a little bit about some of the successes that you have. Because what I want to do today is, the agent that's watching this right now is probably searching for some answers. Is looking for a way to put their business on automate their business, to use the magic word which you and I both love is leverage, to leverage this wonderful industry, to leverage their marketplace, to leverage systems. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you're doing today, and then we're going to jump right into business planning and why it's so important.
Sure. Well, I think the first thing, I guess there's be two types of agents that might be watching this. There might be a newer agent who's just looking for some direction on how to get started. There might be someone who's an 8-year veteran who is looking to, rebirth and just completely restart their entire business. So what I would say to the first agent is that I'm not saying I have any regrets, but the one thing I guess I would have done differently is I would have searched out, found the best team in my marketplace, and I would have joined them. I didn't do that. My learning curve would have been cut in more than half had I done that. But instead, I bought every training I could think of and just kind of tried to figure it out on my own. What I would say to anybody out there is that when I started in the 90s, the individual agent, the average individual agent, that was what all you saw. You didn't see the formation of teams, and that's come full circle. And now you either need to be on a team and part of a team as a member or a leader, and either one's fine. You could be a team leader. If you're not cut out to be a team leader, that's okay. Hop on a good solid team backed by someone who leads with culture first and core values, a good set of core values, and interview a couple, and you'll pick out the good ones. So I guess that's my strongest, best advice I would say initially. Moving forward, depending on whether you're individual agent or you're on a team, I mean, business planning is key, and getting a good plan in place is easier said than done. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to a plan depending on where you're at in your business. Do you have, is it just you, or is it, are you a team leader already watching this and you need some direction on how to put together a winning plan, to do 150 transactions in a year? The business plan is absolutely, I would not be able to do 180 to 200 transactions in 12 months if I didn't have a solid business plan backing all the things we're doing.
Al, let me back up a little bit because you said something interesting. You said there was two types of agents, and you mentioned one, and I'm gonna have you talk about the other one real quick before we get into business planning. You said the first thing is that if you're a new agent and you're trying to, if you're just trying to dig roots, right, trying to just gain momentum in this industry, because it is dog eat dog. There's a lot of agents out there that are the new breed of agent. They're not this old school door knocking, farming, type of agent. Although that's not a bad thing to do, because there's not a lot of agents out there that are doing it. But we're in a new world right now with lead generation systems, follow-up systems, leveraging talent to build teams. We were just discussing your ISA. Your inside sales associate, hiring the right inside sales associate to make the calls, but the calls that they're making aren't just out of the phone book because you have a lead generation system that you've built in your company. And so a lot of times what I hear from agents, well, I don't want to join a team because I got to split my commissions 50-50 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand. It's like outside the box. So, let's pull yourself outside and think about this for a moment. To build your team out, you're investing a lot of money. So your overhead is a lot higher to pay the expenses that you have to build the systems and everything to bring in the leads. If an agent was to go out and do that on their own, it would be hard for them to gain traction, wouldn't it?
Well, it is, and that's the beauty of a team, is that you're leveraging, just to give you an example, on our team, we have, including myself, 6 full-time agents and 3 inside staff members that help support our businesses. Just to throw some hard numbers at everybody, my expenses on a monthly basis range between, $10,000 and $12,000 per month. Mm-hmm. Now, for that to fall on one agent's back, you got to be cranking. You got to be cranking hard, and it's not easy. I don't know too many people who are putting up 200 transactions on their own. It's more fun to do it with other people who share your same belief systems and core values, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier to be able to build systems. And some of them are cheap, some of them are free, but to build the systems that can consistently bring in a flow of leads that could help feed a team of anywhere from 3 to 10, 12 agents.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to spread those expenses out over 6 or 8 agents versus trying to carry all of those and get those solid systems together and just try and cover all those expenses with one person.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that second agent, because I know you've got some insight, because you are, in my honest opinion, you are in the top 5, top 10% of the agents in the U.S. today, because the average agent, NAR has done a recent study that the average income has rose, I think, 8% to $35,000 a year for a real estate agent, which is, to me, a dismal number. It's pathetic. And if I offend some agents out there, I apologize. But it's pathetic. I mean, real estate agents should be making way more than $34,800 and something dollars. Yeah, I understand the economy's coming back and whatever, but you and I both know there have been real estate agents that didn't even skip a beat during the down economy. As a matter of fact, they were making more profit in the down economy than anybody else. So let's talk about that second agent, because you were involved in some high level masterminds with some agents, and we won't go really in depth because we don't want to really unfold and pull back the veil too much. But profitability is a big word, or lack thereof, with the top 5, top 10%. Wouldn't you agree? And that's something that they're trying to figure out. How do I be more profitable?
Yeah, I mean, I think you go through stages, and just kind of, I haven't thought about this just up until now, but in my own career, the first stage is this building stage, and that's where that important business plan should come in. But again, it's easier said than done. And when you don't have the knowledge and the education, I mean, you have to be a student first, always.
Yeah.
I mean, no one that's successful, or that's a leader, or that's a master or an expert at whatever they do, they had to be a student first. Right. So, I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. Closed-minded people who won't go to a seminar, learn new things with the technology that's out there today, they're going to be gone. The average agent in the country sells about 8 homes a year, and that is a pathetic number. And I'm not meaning to offend anyone either, but it's a cold fact. And the stages that people go through often to try and differentiate themselves from the average agent is they'll try and figure out what they need to do to get more leads, and then build a website, and then do I hire an agent first, buyer's agent, or do I hire an assistant, or do I need either of them yet? And there really isn't any direction. That's why getting involved in any kind of coaching. I mean, I'm not saying that all coaches are the same, because they're not. There's definitely different strokes for different folks, and you just have to find one that actually fits your comfort zone, something that you're going to be able to soak in. But I mean, having that building block first is going to be essential. So that's your first part. The second stage is that you're trying to go from 25 transactions to 50, or maybe you're trying to go from 50 to 80, or 80 to 100. And through those, you're trying to find systems that you can put into your business that are going to get you there. So, and I'm going to round to profitability. So then once you get all of the systems and you have everything working and firing, sometimes you look at your business and you say, wow, I'm doing 100 transactions, but I got all these systems and they're expensive, so the profitability margins are a little, you would think you'd be more profitable. So when I think that third stage is getting profitable, right, and trimming out things that you don't need, and pulling back. And I'll tell you, it's scary to look at a spreadsheet or a P&L report and to think your business isn't as profitable as you thought it was. When you get to that higher level, it's vital that you do that. And like I said, no one wants to do it. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. You got to get it over with and done. Yeah. But at the end, you're really forming a more solid, true business.
Right.
just a job.
Well, one of the things that we talk about all the time is just quality of life. You know, that you live in the lifestyle that you want, that perfect lifestyle. And a lot of agents today aren't living that lifestyle, even though they are making money. I've even talked to some agents that are doing 20, 30, 40 transactions a year, which is good for single. That I mean, they're way above average, but they're so
Mhm.
busy. I mean, they're reverse leverage. Like they have no time for their family. Um, they're spending all their money, all their cash on trying to get more customers. They've got no referral systems in place and none of that. So let's talk today about. I think the biggest and most crucial element to any business, not just a real estate business, but is just planning accordingly. And we're going to talk a little bit about a project that you're working on, which is Win Before You Start. Um, and it's something that I know is true and near to your heart. So let's talk about business planning, why it's so important, not just for the new agent, but for a seasoned agent as well. That's just kind of throwing stuff up on the wall and seeing what sticks. What are you doing in your business? How did you get to where you're at with business planning? How do you working on your business versus working in your business? How is your team set up with your your huddles and all that stuff? Let's just kind of walk me through maybe a work week at the Stasek Group and what's really working for you guys and helping you leverage the systems that you have in place.
So you want to talk about our weekly thing, or you want to talk about the business plan?
Just the weekly thing, the business plan, how it incorporates into each other.
Well, before I go into the weekly thing, I mean, yearly we get together and put our business plan together, and that's not just. I mean, there's a main day that happens where everybody kind of gets their thoughts out on paper and puts their why they want it and what they're going to do to get it and what they're willing to commit to do it. That's kind of one of the things we do once a year, and then revisit that quarterly. Um, on a monthly basis, I meet with every one of my agents on a coaching call, and we go back over those and look at where they're at, where they're going. Are they getting where they want to be, and just connecting with them and whatever we can do to try and help them get there is why they're here in the first place. So we go over those objectives and see what's being done and what isn't being done. So that's on a monthly basis. Weekly, we keep the synergy of the group together by morning huddle calls at 8:30 every day. We all dial into a conference line. We dial in and everybody gives us what happened the day before, any good news they want to share. Uh, a few high fives going, get the energy flowing. We also go over what's on their plate for the day. And the third thing we just talk about is if anyone has any hang-ups, anything they need issues with, talk to me about. Maybe we can take care of it right there in the call, or we would just take it offline. That kind of gets our day jump-started. So me as a leader can then look and say, all right, is your day filling up with priority items, things that you need to get done that you should be doing every day, like getting into your pipeline of leads and calling them and prospecting on a daily basis? Or is that we call it choice management versus time management, but is that time blocked out? Have you made the choice to block the time out to do those things that aren't going to benefit you tomorrow, but they're going to benefit you in 60 days?
Right.
I mean, if you're prospecting today, in our business, you don't see that dollar maybe till 60 or even 90 days out when you're able to get that listing or start working with that family that needs to buy a home.
Yeah.
So, just keeping your eye on that ball and on a daily basis. The morning huddle is huge. It was a game changer when we started it, and we swear by it. We do it every day.
Yes, that's good. So tell me a little bit about the so let's get right into the planning portion because we've got about 15 minutes here left, and I really want to touch on that. The planning session. So when you do the yearly plan, let's talk about what that plan looks like, what it consists of, what numbers are you looking to set, and measure, because I think you and I have heard this before. There's two important numbers in real estate. There's, or in business really, there's the 5-year goal and what you're doing over the next 30 days to accomplish that goal. So you talk about measuring the numbers. So what numbers are you looking to really solidify at the beginning of the year? How do you so do you look at last year and say we did 150 transactions, this year we're going to do 170? What are you looking for? You're looking for 20% growth, 30% growth? Kind of just walk me through that, your mindset when you're putting your plan together.
Well, I think that's going to be different for everybody. I think it has to be measured on your assumption of how many, if you're in a position where you are a team leader and you're bringing in new agents, you make your numbers. You have to make your estimates match with the number of agents you have and how many you plan to have the following calendar year. So if you're planning on recruiting, one agent a quarter or one agent every half of the year or whatever it is, if you want to add two to your team this year or whatever the goal is, you just have to take that into consideration on average number of transactions that you would expect if they were to hit their goals. And that's kind of how I laid mine out. Of course, you want to see growth, but and growth is possible every single year. We had, but for instance, we had a breakthrough year in 2011. I think we went from 80 transactions to 138 transactions, and this year we're gonna beat last year, but we're not doubling our business.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that 2013 we're gonna double our business. We're gonna double down like we did the year before, because we're putting new systems in play today that are going to help us the following year. Maybe not explode us to the top this year, but we're growing, and we're growing steadily. And I think that's an important thing to keep your eye on. You need to grow. It's great. Fast growth is great, and it's definitely possible. But building a solid team and not just putting anybody on your team is important. So I hire slow, fire fast. And that's been something that was taught to me. It's probably the best advice that you could ever have. Your people have to fit into your core values, and if they don't, they got to go.
Yeah.
Going back to the goal planning, though, that's how I do it. And I assume that I'm going to add X amount of agents. So we plug those numbers into the math. We not only break it down for a yearly goal, but we also break it down quarterly, and then we break it down again monthly. And in Cleveland, Ohio area, Northeast Ohio, it's very seasonal up here. We have harsh winters and hot summers, so lots during the summer, and a lot of times those numbers fall a little bit. Although the last 2 years they have in December, but for the most part, there's a seasonality. So you're going to see your high numbers of sales during the warm months, and then when it cools off, the number of sales cools off a little bit too. So we take all that into consideration and account when we're setting the goals. We look at number of listing appointments. We look at how many listing appointments and what our close ratios are, so we know how many we have to set, how many we have to go on. Of the ones we go on, usually half of them we don't want. So, all those numbers have to be taken into consideration. Then you plug your close ratio in, and it gives you a ballpark of where you need to be if you expect to hit your financial or number goals, or however you measure. We always measure by we've been mentioning number of homes, but number of homes doesn't really mean much, in my opinion. I mean, it does and it doesn't. You could have an agent that sells 92 homes, and they could have more profitable and more GCI than someone that sells, 180 homes, depending on the price range that they're working in, depending on how much commission they're charging.
Right.
So there's so many variables. But since we're talking about planning, we pay attention to the percentage, the average commission amount.
Right. And I think another number that's important, and we've talked about this before, is a lot of agents get focused on the end result, and they don't look at the process. Well, the process to getting to the end result is what you're doing over the next 30 days to get to what you want. So, for instance, if you throw out a goal of I want to sell 50 homes next year, okay, and so what am I need to do on a daily basis to get to that number? Well, there's an equation that you can break it down to when on your close ratios, your spoke to ratios, and everything on how many calls you need to make a day. And so a lot of agents are like, well, I'm going to do 50 transactions next year, and the reason why I'm going to do 50 is because this year I did 40 transactions. So if I feel like I did 40, I can do 10 more. Well, what happens is, and you know this, is like you might do 50, but good grief, if you just put a plan together, you might double your business, right? It's like, because I think if you're an agent in today's market and you can do 40 transactions, you can do 80. And if you can do 80, you can do 120. And if you can do 120, you probably can do 240. It's just about relentless pig-headed discipline, getting into it, planning, working the plan, right? Like my pastor always says, he says, understand the plan, follow the pattern, receive the promise. That's what he says all the time. And I love that because he's talking about church and religion and stuff like, but I'm like, put that in business. Understand the when follow the pattern, receive the promise. And so it's interesting when you what's that?
Pretty simple, straightforward.
Yeah, it's very simple. So we're coming up to the end. So I want you to tell me a little bit about when before you start, because, and I know there's so many things we can do on planning and like I know you've started doing some high level consulting in your business for agents and stuff, and to help them with their planning. But when before you start was an idea that you had, and because you saw that there was a lack of planning in real estate, and mentioned the Remax thing. You said there's the Remax convention that's coming up, and out of all the breakout sessions, there was nothing on what kind of walk me through that conversation.
Well, there was nothing on business planning. There's breakout sessions on social media. I mean, you could probably hit a half a dozen social media breakout sessions, and they're all good. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a social media plan, because in today's business world, you have to if you want to get anywhere. I mean, that's one of the least expensive forms of bringing business in through your network and be able to stay in contact with your circles. But there wasn't one. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I was asked to, I've been doing business planning and goal setting specifically for my team since I've owned the team. And someone approached me and said, "Hey, would you do that?" I think it was my broker at Remax approached me and said, "Would you do that for Remax Crossroads, our whole company?" I said, "Sure." So I just put a webinar together. Virtually, it was the same thing I was doing for my team, but I did it on a webinar platform, and they liked it. And someone else had from another company was actually on there, heard it, and wanted me to do it for the board of realtors. So I just found myself, it was by accident that this all happened, but what I found was that no one was out there walking people through it. And I think that's the big thing, is that everyone loves to go on listing appointments, and everyone loves negotiating deals, and everyone loves that. I mean, helping people realize what they want, whether that's first-time home buyer or getting their home sold so they can move up to another one, or helping people that are empty nesters sell their home that they raise their family in. Those are all rewarding and awesome. Those are the best things about our business. Very rarely does anybody get real excited about business planning. So I made it a little bit fun. I put it together and literally so I can grab your hand, walk you through it from beginning to end, so you don't get caught up and get squirreled through the process. And we developed a company, Win Before You Start, and we're super excited about it. And our first product we're going to be launching is the Breakthrough Business Plan. I think that's what you were
and I've actually seen it. It's pretty cool, and I love. We won't say too much about it because I know it's going to be launching here pretty soon. But one of the really cool things is you've got what's called the 100K formula, and it's a special formula that you developed for agents to be able to go in and set a goal, and it tells them exactly what they need to do on a daily basis to reach that goal. It's like it's a form that you created, and And I know I don't want to give too much out because it's pretty cool, but well, I'm excited about seeing that because you're right. It's we went to the Melinda and I went to the KW family reunion last year at Anaheim or this year at Anaheim earlier this year. The same thing. Not that I'm planning. I mean, it's a lack of because it's kind of a boring topic. It's like I got a plan, but
Yeah.
I like the way you do it. You really start with their why. You know, what's your why you're in real estate, and then you've got some other cool stuff like affirmations. But then you really go back into the planning aspect and really how to develop the team, how to develop culture in your business. So it's not just like a paper plan, like a book, but it's really like an overall plan on everything that you need in your real estate business. So I'm excited to see that, and I can't wait till it comes out. And when it does, we'll have some links below this interview. So, so we're coming up to the end. So just do me a huge favor. Any agent that's watching this interview right now, give them some words of wisdom. Drop some knowledge, last minute thought on what they can do today in their business. Maybe they're drinking a cup of coffee and trying to get some motivation. Maybe they're lost a deal, whatever. Just give us some words of motivation.
Well, if you're an agent out there and you're just feeling like you're in a rut and you're like you're just kind of a person without a plan, find a coach. If you're not coachable, get coachable. You need to force yourself into that spot where you're open-minded, open to change, open to hearing a different way of doing things. Obviously, if you're in that spot, and I've been there myself, so I know what it feels like to just wake up in the morning and be like, what do I do today? And unfortunately, a lot of our colleagues, they get up every day and they're like, all right, I really have no direction. What am I going to do today? And they just kind of wing their day. And coaching is going to give you that direction. It's going to put you on the right path. And I mean, that I have to say that's got to be the best advice I can give you. I always looked at coaching as an expense. It's not an expense. It's an investment that will give you back a return. The first time I went into a high-level coaching program, it wasn't cheap. It cost me $10,000 a year. I got that back times 5 with just what I learned in that 12-month period. So you just have to believe it. I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the classroom. I can tell you that right now. I just listen to what the people who are successful are doing and copy right off of that. And anybody could do that as long as you got a little bit of an attention span to pay attention, and you got to be passionate about what you want to do. If you don't have the passion, then you probably should just get into a different business altogether. But if you're passionate about this business and helping people, and you're coming from the right place, you need to get that coach that's a fit for you. And if you hang on tight, they'll take you to the next level.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And here's the funny thing about it is if you don't have money to coach, there's free resource sites like this video you're watching right now, this interview you're watching right now is on realbees.com. There's a wealth of information on this site. Just be a seeker, have a desire. I love what you said. You just have to want it. At the end of the day, well, I appreciate you, man, getting on the call today. So we're going to do some more of these interviews because I love, what I love about you is that you are a seeker of knowledge. And so every time we talk, you've learned something new and you're implementing it, or maybe I learned something from what you say, or I'm reading a different book and you're like, man, I got to read that book now. So I always love our conversations. So I really appreciate you dropping some knowledge on the people here today at realbees.com. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to have some links below. I'll also put a link below to Al's website so you can kind of see, if you're a real estate agent, you're looking how to just kind of have an internet presence, you can see what he's doing, and we'll go from there. So Al, I appreciate you again, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Shawn.